I loved you then, I love you now, and I will continue loving you until I can no longer.
You took a part of me until I had nothing left.
The old me had to die so the new me could be reborn.
I didn't deserve that pain. I deserve love, just not from her.
Today, I choose myself.
I wanted to tell you, but you weren't there.
These are the stories that I wish you heard. Streaming weekly episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
If you like this episode, please rate the podcast 5 stars, 6 and take it home. This podcast is a member of Bunk Collective.
Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTV Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. It's Friday, you know what that means. Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTV Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. Okay, so for this week's episode of the podcast, supposedly dapat two-part to since we're going to have Hell in a Cell. Tapos, meron pang Stand and Deliver. In Your House pay-per-view. Sorry naman. But in this case, we decided to compress the episode and yung supposedly attention to detail episode will be released next week as part of our New Era Week. No? Yung ating New Era Week na ating pong sisimulan by Wednesday. Marami tayong i-reveal on Wednesday for sure. So yun, magkakaroon tayo ng attention to detail episode on Wednesday. Then, tuloy-tuloy natin yung Impact Week natin. Kasi next week is Slammiversary. We're going to do another predictions episode for sure. And it's gonna be good. Kasi this is one of the biggest events of Impact Wrestling. Then, for tonight's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about Hell in a Cell plus NXT In Your House pay-per-views plus the fall of Double or Nothing na hindi natin na-expect, especially CM Punk being injured. Then, he decided to vacate the title but Tony Khan decided not to kasi he wants to adopt a kinda combat sports stuff na magkakaroon na lang ng interim champion. Speaking of AEW, let's talk about AEW right now before we officially introduce the show. No? So, let's talk about CM Punk. The announcement here. So, CM Punk announced na hindi mo na siya makapag-appear on TV kasi injured yung kanyang paa during Double or Nothing match versus Hangman Page. So, ang naging response ng AEW about this is they decided to crown an interim champion na nakita natin to before pero it's a different scenario since they're calling it interim. No. Instead of the official name WWE or AEW Championship. In this case, they decided to crown an AEW champion. And Jon Moxley is now part of the main event at Forbidden Door. So there's gonna be a match between Jon Moxley And the winner of the Dominion match between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Hiroki Goto for the second spot for the Forbidden Door main event. So, on this week's episode of Dynamite, they announced na magkakaroon nga ng Battle Royale, Casino Battle Royale, with the winner will face John Moxley in the main event. So, Kyle O'Reilly won the Battle Royale. Summarize na natin. Then, on the main event episode of Dynamite, so Moxley defeated Kyle O'Reilly. Nagbukang malakas si Kyle dito, yes. Plus yon. And hindi ibig sabihin jab na naman mga buwisit kayo. Puro kayo jab. Na? So, yun lang. Konting thoughts about the CM Punk. Hindi ako fan ng ganito. So, I know TK wants to be different. Na? He wants to be different rather than WWE, rather than the other companies. I know TK is trying to give us an approach like that. Pero, ako as a fan na sobrang tagal pa na magiging injured si Punk, sana vacant na lang nila yung championship as soon as Wednesday pa lang. If sabihin nila na okay, si Punk is injured, so let's vacate the championship and let's crown a new fucking champion at Forbidden Door. But iba yung naging case dito. Hindi ako fan ng interim champion. Medyo magulo siya. Medyo magulo rin actually yung announcement nila nung una. Pero wala tayong magagawa. We need to move on and let's determine the Forbidden Door opponent for John Moxley. Ako actually nag-expect ako ng Goto, pero feeling ko for formality, it's Hiroshi Tanahashi talaga since may history na rin naman sila on AEW plus New Japan syempre sa Strong saka sa events na recently, no? Okay. So plus, let's add this shit. Let's talk about the All Atlantic Championship. Okay, so All Atlantic Championship. Okay. So, AEW introduced another mid-card title. Then, ito yung medyo controversial sa atin. No? So, alam naman natin lahat na ang China at Japan, hindi naman yan part ng ng Atlantic. Kung nag-aaral kayo ng AP, okay, ng CB ka, o kaya ng tawag dito, AP nga tama. Kasi tanda ko dito, Hekasi yun, Hekasi. Kung nag-aaral kayo dati ng AP, mas madali na nga lang AP, alam nating lahat na hindi kasama ang Japan at saka China sa flag o sa mga bansa na nabilang sa Atlantic. No? So, ang labo why TK decided to put the Japan and China flags on that motherfucking title. Wala ba tayong explanation about TK so far? Pero ang point kasi dito, according sa palabas kanina, is the flag symbols din yung pagiging tawag dito, parang Intercontinental Championship, something like that. Yun ang purpose ng belt na to. Yun ang reason why they did this. They're going to treat this more on a Intercontinental US Championship. And ito yung parang magiging belt nila panlabas panlabas ng AEW pwede na magamit nila to panlabas ng AEW. And yun. It's gonna be good. So far, there's one match on the tournament and they're going to have a fatal 4-way final at Forbidden Door. So, Pac defeated Buddy Matthews for the first match of the fatal 4-way stakes at Forbidden Door. Then, okay, let's talk about Will Ospreay. So, Will Ospreay made his AEW debut with his guns, Australian stuff like that. And they assaulted FTR and Threat. No. Okay, so okay lang sa akin at least the Forbidden Door sense kicks off. And nagkakaroon ng sense yung kung naman yung gusto nilang palabas. about the Forbidden Door, ano? Malamang sa malamang, ang Forbidden Door naman kasi, pag sinabi Forbidden Door, ano to eh, intercompany, parang ganyan. Pero iba yung binibigay sa atin, obvious reasons, because CM Punk. But regardless, we will see the next build-ups pa. No? Ayun. Yun lang. Wala pa tayong so far nakukuha ng matches as of today. Today's recording aside doon sa CM Punk supposedly match and yung main event nga na Moxley versus the winner of the Dominion matchup. Okay? Then, finally, on our Dynamite review, before we go to our first commercial break, plus we're going to tackle some MJF update. Okay, so Hangman Adam Page is calling out Okada for a IWGP heavyweight title match. Okay. So, ito. Ewan ko kung ako lang nang iinis kasi hindi pa naman nangyayari ang Dominion. Tapos they're building up the state of the obvious here. I'm glad na Adam Cole comes out na parang sinabi niya na okay, maybe pwede rin matalo ni Jay White si Okada. So it's good fun. Pero it's not the perfect time for Adam Page to call Okada out. Kasi mangyayari pa lang yung defense. Hindi pa kasi sure if Okada will be the one who will go to Chicago as your AEW champion, right? So that's why I don't get the point of Okada or Adam Page doing that promo, calling out him on that episode of Dynamite. So it doesn't make sense to me until then. But let's see in the next few days pa. Medyo mahaba pa naman ang build-up. So, 3 weeks pa yun, no? 3 weeks pa yun, marami pa magbabago sa mga points ako. Sa mga point of views ko, marami pa magbabago for sure. Pero yun muna sa akin for now. For that. Then, finally, let's talk about MJF. So, MJF is now dropped from all of the TNT-related and TBS-related programming, commercials, teasers, trailers, and even websites and everything related sa Warner and Discovery. Now, then they dropped MJF everything in the intro, outro. Ito lang, simple lang masasabi ko before we go to our first gap. MJF, alam ko, gusto mo yan. And and medyo natuturn na rin ako at this point. Feeling ko, worth na to. They're building up MJF into a big story talaga na mangyayari talaga after ng Forbidden Door. Ayun, so ngayon magpo-focus muna sila sa Forbidden Door din. They're going to continue with this crap. Yan. Yun lang masasabi ko about the MJF stuff. For now, I'm not going to speak hanggat wala pa tayong matinong development about MJF. And okay, so that's it for our Dynamite review. When we come back, we're going to talk about Hell in a Cell. And then on the part 3 of this episode, we're going to talk about NXT in your house. So okay, let's introduce ourselves. So welcome to the show. Nauna ko na yung AEW. I'm so fucking excited to talk about the AEW developments. So for this week's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about, of course, napag-usapan na natin yung AEW things. Then on the next few minutes here on the podcast, we're going to talk about Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, premium live event, plus the Sundays in your house event of NXT. So it's a premium live event then. Now we're going to tackle in the third half of the show. So yes, stay tuned for more reviews and we're going to talk about Hell in a Cell on this second break. On this first break, no. So for now, we're going to take a break and let's check our punk mates here on Punk Collect.
Hey everyone, this is Mo Twister and you're listening to the Kingdom Podcast with the voice DJ Yuki.
That was the OG, Mo Twister, promoting this podcast. If you like Korean pop culture, or know someone who does, then get into it, and visit our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages at the Kingdom Pod PH.
We're proud to tell you that this is one of the premier shows to go to for your weekly dose of K-pop. So drop everything and listen to the Kingdom Podcast. Available in all your podcast streaming platforms.
Join us!
Hey guys, I'm Brian.
And I'm Luigi.
And this is Bulalo Sessions.
Kwentuhang puro kasabawan.
Pero may laman.
Dito, pagchichikahan natin ang kung ano-anong ganap natin sa buhay.
Pwedeng love life, kawalan ng love life,
madalas sex, or reklamo sa trabaho.
At marami pang iba.
So, kung gusto nyo makarelate sa kasabawan,
or bored lang talaga kayo sa buhay,
pakinggan nyo kami sa Bulalo Sessions.
Wednesdays at 8 p.m.
Kita-kits!
Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before we continue, let's promote some shit on Shopee. So, tapos lang ng 6/6 pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung sale until July 7, 2022 in their mid-year sale. So, if you want to support the podcast on the Shopee, especially hanggang 7/7 pa yan, araw-araw may sale sa Shopee for sure. You can use my link on the description below, podlink.co/bhx. Again, that's podlink.co/bhx. Or kaya dun sa akin, linktr.ee/the MTJ Show Podcast. Pindutin nyo yung Shopee. Didiretso yan sa Shopee app. And please check out. And it's gonna be a big help here on the podcast without no extra cost to you. Okay? So, let's talk about Hell in a Cell. So, Hell in a Cell Premium Live Event. Kakayari lang, no? Monday, Manila time. We're going to talk about a lot of things here on the main roster shows. Okay. Let's talk about the main event match. The Hell in a Cell match. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. So, background muna tayo on what happened on Cody Rhodes. So, few hours before Hell in a Cell, meron tayong balita na Cody get injured and na-torn partially yung kanyang pec, yung kanyang right pec. So, sa mga hindi nakakaalam, yung pec parang ano yan eh, parang nag-expose bigla, no? Kitang-kita yung pagkakulay violet, parang nabugbog, no? Then, ayan, paunahan ko kayo, di makeup yan. Sinabing ko sa inyo. Then, so, Cody decided na mag-compete pa din on that match despite of that development, no? In-announce yan sa TV or sa pay-per-view film live event. During the kickoff show, in-explain nila mabuti. Yung explanation nila dito is during the brawl on Raw. Then, during Cody Rhodes' training earlier on that episode or that Hell in a Cell event, in-announce nila habang nagtitrade na partial torn yung kanyang pec, no? So, probably today, when we're going to drop this episode, probably successful na yung operation ni Cody on his pec. So, I wish him all the best na makapag-recover siya ng maayos. And the recovery period is 6 to 8 months or 5 to 6 months according to our sources outside of pro wrestling. Or of course, SRS na yun. So, wala pa tayong timetable na maganda-ganda. Wala pa tayong timetable na stable. Pero ang sigurado natin, it's 6 to 8 months. No? Hindi yun talkish. Babalik si Cody probably SummerSlam. Ay, WrestleMania season. No? Royal Rumble or WrestleMania season. No? Then, okay, let's talk about the matches na since ito i-review. No? So, first thing, we're going to talk about the Cody versus Seth. Regardless on what happened between Cody and that story, on that development, Cody still have the guts to compete on that pay-per-view, and I think he earned my respect on that. I love this man. But, nagmukhang kamote, alam mo ba yun? Alam mo yung nakakatawa dito na parang pinalo, tapos nagpasaway ka pa din. Ganon yung nangyari kay Cody. Nakakayamot. Na at the same time, he got my respect. At the same time, nakakayamot na kailangan ko para mag-compete dito. Magpapabida pa din ako. Ganyan. Hindi naman sa nagpapabida si Cody, but the way I see it, mukha siya nagpapabida. No? Yung shoulder injury niya, yung kanyang pec is pa-torn na if you're watching the pay-per-view on Sunday. Sobrang na yung torn ng kanyang shoulder. Tapos, he decided to compete pa. Parang ang labo ng dating sa akin. Nung una ko napanood ang labo. No? Pero habang tumatagal yung match, yep, nagmukha siyang safe match kumpara sa mga inasahan natin recently sa mga Hell in a Cell matches. Nagmukha siyang safe kasi medyo na-limit dahil dun sa katawan ni Cody nga. Medyo na-limit yung mga moves na ginawa nila Seth dito. Pero I don't blame Seth. I don't blame WWE either. Pero the point here is, bakit nyo nga ba kinilayer si Cody, man? Yun lang ang gusto kong malaman eh. Why they decided to clear Cody Rhodes despite of his will to compete on the pay-per-view. Why they cleared Cody Rhodes? Yan ang hindi natin masasagot. Yan ang hindi natin masasagot ngayon. Kasi si Cody rin naman na nagsabi na I will compete on this pay-per-view regardless on what happened to me earlier in the show for the love of the game. No? Ganun yung pagkasabi niya sa tweet niya. I think it before the show or after ba? After ba o before? Before I think before. Then ayun na, nagkaroon na nga ng matinding development na kung kailan ba magko-compete ulit si Cody, probably WrestleMania na ito eh. Sigurado ako WrestleMania na to eh. And ayun. So let's talk about the match. Aside doon sa sinabi ko kanina. The match is great. Nagmukha siyang safe match. Wala ganun duguan, pero I feel the intensity of the match pa din. No? Ang nakakainis lang, I know Cody's injured. They need to strict some stuff now. Ang hindi ko maintindihan, bakit pa rin talaga siya nag-take place. No? Pero nalakuha na rin natin yung sagot. So Cody wants to compete pa din. So it's kind of understandable. Pero at the same time nakakayamot. I know paulit-ulit, pero paulit-ulit ko talaga ipapamukha sa inyo kung ano yung nangyari. Okay, I love Cody this one. On this one, I love Cody. No? Then, next, let's talk about the women's title between Asuka, the champion Becky Lynch, the Bianca Belair, and challenger Bianca. Ay, Becky. Dapat ko sinabi times na champion si Becky. Ano? Okay. So, this match is an absolute banger. In my opinion, if Cody Rollins match pulled out of the show, ito dapat yung isa sa mga dapat mag-Hell in a Cell. Aside sa Corbin Madcap, mamaya pag-usapan natin. It's a really good match. Para sa akin, sobrang outstanding ng pinakita nilang tatlo dito. Ang kulang lang sa akin, medyo na-confuse ako why Bianca won the match. Simple lang. I want Asuka to win. Kaya lang medyo expected siya na Bianca will win. Medyo nayayamot na rin ako sa run niya so far. Pero wala we had to deal with her pa rin. Pero I love Bianca's reign so far. Let's face it. Medyo di pa ako nababala sa kanya kumpara sa mga ibang champion sila. Unlike Bianca, si Bianca kasi mag-i-improve pa yan the next, no? For now, I swear this is one of the best matches of the night aside from Cody, no? And that's really good. Okay, next, we got the six mixed tag match on Hell in a Cell Judgment Day. FKA, former Judgment Day member Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan, Finn Bálor, and AJ Styles. So, they competed in an absolute disastrous match. Para sa akin, I love this match. But, storytelling, ganda ng explanation ng storytelling nila. It's really good. Yun lang. I love the match, especially the parts of Rhea and Liv. I think they did their best to act on that role and nakasabay sa dalawa pa nating contenders for dispute. No? Then, next, let's talk about Corbin Madcap. So, I think Corbin Madcap match is one of the absolute best builds on SmackDown. And also the only match on the Hell in a Cell card featuring SmackDown talents. I don't know WWE anymore. Hindi ko na alam kung paano sila mag-build ng ganito eh. Hindi ko alam kung paano sila nagbi-build ng ganito, nakakayamot. Parang may part ako na, why we're getting this shit? Although, I'm going to say, I love the new gimmick of Madcap. It's a big upgrade from his former gimmick na low-key bitch ni Corbin. Then now, he's a baddest SOB, parang Wardlow thing in WWE. But it's a really good touch for them na umakto siya ng gano'n, na it's a really good match regardless. And the match itself is a great match, pero di na rin ako nag-expect na Corbin will win, no? Yun lang. I think we got the right winner on this one. And yun lang sa akin. Then the other matches on the card, let's start with the almost Lashley and MVP matchup. It's a really big expected win for Lashley kasi they teased last week na they're going to have a reunion between Cedric Alexander and Bobby Lashley, but Bobby Lashley declined the opinion offer. And after of the match, he raised a fans WWE Championship, teasing a maybe I can challenge Brock or Brock Lesnar, Brock Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE title. Okay. I think it's okay lang. Siguro na-feed naman yung ego nila. Then, okay lang sa akin. Then, we got the other match from Hell in a Cell. Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel. Okay? Man, I love this Ezekiel, man. Plus, dagdag natin yung nangyari after Raw. So, Ezekiel, umamin siya na siya si Elias para magkaroon siya ng match versus Kevin Owens ulit. At sobrang nakakatawa na umamin si Ezekiel na siya ay si Elias nga. It's really weird, but yeah, it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense. Then, ano pa ba? So, US title. So, Theory versus Mustafa Ali. I love the gear of Mustafa here. I think it's a really predictable win for Theory, whatever. So, I love the win of Theory here. And I think it's just the perfect decision for this one. Parang, okay, let's give him a longer title run na hindi magagalit yung fans. But regardless, we don't care. But I think it builds a really big impression for me na maganda yung pinakita dito ni KO. Ni Ezekiel and KO especially. They building up a really good stuff here on WWE now. It's a really good touch. Then, let's talk about that. So, basically, yun lang. Yun lang ang ratings natin for the pay-per-view, yung ating review. No? So, let's do the verdict before we go to the fallout of Hell in a Cell. No? So, the Raw Women's title is 4/5. The almost Lashley and MVP thing is 3. The KO Ezekiel is 3. The Judgment Day versus Bálor and Friends 4. That 3 lang pala. Sorry. Then the Madcap Corbin is 3, the US title is 2, the Hell in a Cell is 5. Okay, let's talk about the fallout of Hell in a Cell really quick. So let's start with Natalia. Natalia became the number 1 contender for the women's title over on SmackDown. So she competed in a 6-pack challenge to determine the number 1 contender for the Ronda Rousey title run. So far, wala pa tayong nakikita ng defense kay Ronda no? Wala bang defense si Ronda on this pay-per-view? Or the show, no? So for ang defense pa lang niya versus versus Raquel, no? But we need to see her versus Nati in a pay-per-view or premium live event. It will be great. Pero don't expect too much, no? Huwag na tayo mag-expect masyado. Kasi for sure they're going to build this feud up, no? For a higher level, higher caliber matchup, no? Yun. Then, okay, so let's talk about ano pa ba? Nasabi ko na nakaraan, we talk about Madcap. It's a big improvement of the Madcap Moss gimmick. And I love the upgrade here of the gimmick. No? I love the gimmick. And that thing is so absolutely surreal, no? Then finally, so we got the undisputed tag champions, the Usos versus Street Profits. I think it's Profits ba? Profits yun. Oh, it's Profits. So, Profits ba? Oh, no. I think it's Profits. Okay. So regardless, the match is really good. Really good. But the only problem that I got here is kahit na nakakayamot. Kinda nakakayamot kasi hindi na nga natin nakikita yung champion Roman Reigns. Tapos nadagdag pa tong dalawang magkapatid at ibang gago. Parang nakakagago, ganun eh. Nakakainis, nakakagago. Na nanood ka for the champions, tas wala naman yung top champion mo, di ba? Disrespect agad yun. Di ba? Then, on Monday Night Raw, so we got, of course, they decided to write Cody out in TV, no? They write him off by the assault of Seth Rollins. That's an absolute hell. And Cody did his role, Seth did his role. That's an absolute best build-up in a while here in AEW, rather. Then, okay, so ano pa ba? So, Becky Lynch is fought for the 24/7 championship earlier on Raw. And that's a really good desperation story by Becky. Becky is suffering a big shit. Big shit, I don't know what happened. But regardless, let's go. Baba. It's a really good it's a really good thing regardless on what happened. No? Then so we got the newest member of Judgment Day. So we got drum roll, please. So Finn Bálor, and then they decided to kick Edge out of the stable, and there's some changes na mangyayari. So probably that's why they kicked Edge out kasi ayaw niya dun sa orphan something sa kanyang garden. But yeah, it's really weird, no? Okay, so Finn Balor is the newest member or the newest leader of the Bullet Club, is the Judgment Day. I think that's a big upgrade. Kaya lang, 2 months pa lang yung stable. Why you decided to have a new stable agad? Diba, ano? Early, new leadership, diba? Nakakainis. But regardless, yeah, so speaking of which, So we got the... Baba. Boy. Saan yung script ko? Shit. So, okay. So, Becky being desperate for everything. Anything Tyros. So, Becky fought for the 24/7 championship on this week's episode of Raw. And Becky was defeated by Asuka. It's a really good shit storyline. Di ba? Nakakagago. Tapos, being in the main event. So, we got Rhea Ripley became the number 1 contender for the women's title. So, marami nag-complain dito, no? Marami din na umay dito na yamot na banas on this setup of... But, yeah, she's really good, man. No? She's a very good talker, very good wrestler. But, yeah, boy. Yeah. Okay. Continue natin yung pod. So, naputol yon. That's a shit. That's a shame, okay? So, continue natin with my takes on Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley became the number 1 contender for the Raw Women's title and she will face Bianca. So, para sa akin lang, yung nasa list of participants of the Fatal 4-Way, it makes sense kasi Rhea yung pinaka-aggressive plus yung nag-grow Judgment Day with Finn Bálor being the leader. It makes sense to me na siya yung naging number 1 contender for the Raw Women's title. Definitely not Becky. That's good. Para sa akin lang, goods yun. Kasi at least they introduce a new face or new contender for the Raw Women's title. Di yung umikot na kay Asuka kaya kay Becky yung title, which is great. And kahit paano mawawala yung umay factor when it comes to those title matches, no? Okay. Let's talk about konti na lang. We're going to talk about the Becky thing before we go to our scores of Hell in a Cell. Ulitin lang natin kasi nakat nga. Okay, so the Becky Lynch story, I love this thing. Sobrang desperate ni Becky dito, ano? Yung tipo na talagang gusto niyang kunin lahat as long as it's a gold, she will get it. Wala, hindi to downgrade kagaya ng iba sinasabi dyan na downgrade daw ito. If you're watching Raw, mananotice nyo nag-feud pa din si Bianca at si Asuka. So, putting Dana Brooke in the 24/7 title, it's just a plot device na para mag-continue pa din yung feud, which is great, my opinion. At least, nagkaroon din ng matinong TV time yung 24/7 title, my point of view. Ang medyo masakit lang sa akin is Becky has to suffer this stuff. Pero hindi ko sinasabi na downgrade to. Hindi ko rin sinasabi na it's part of Becky's story na down bottom na siya. So, even 24/7 title, she will challenge for it. Magulat ka kung next week, kahabol yan, tatakbo yan for the 24/7 title. Doon ka magulat. And doon din talaga matatawa talaga. Seryoso. Mas hindi ako maiinis, matatawa pa ako. And at the same time, matutuwa ako kasi kakaroon na ng relevance kahit paano yung 24/7 title since Becky is going to hold the belt. So ganda, credible na, panigurado. Okay, by the way, before we go, John Cena is set to return on the June 27th episode of Raw. So basically, he teased a lot of things, especially the US title a few weeks back. So, ito na ba? Ito na ba yung return for Austin Theory confrontation, okay? So, let's see in the next few weeks. Okay. So, last thing, we're going to talk about before we go to our commercial, our gap. Ito, sabihin ko muna pala, itong episode na ito wala putol. Tapos, I decided to, merge ko na lang yung eps. It's live na putol kasi, and while I'm recording last night, I have to record it ulit. No. But regardless, ganun din naman. Go! So Natalia became the number one contender for the SmackDown Women's Championship. She won a six-pack challenge and wala pang plano on who will be face. Ronda will be wala pang balita kung kailan gaganapin yung laban or when this fight will take place. But I'm going to make sure that's gonna be good. Kasi, Natalia is one of the best women's wrestler in the WWE. And definitely, di ka bibiguin dito ni Ronda. Ronda is improving naman. And kakaroon tayo ng magandang progression about this women's division on SmackDown kaysa sa Raw na maraming butas, no? Ito, kumparain natin. No? Ito, nawala si Sasha at si Naomi. Parang nawala yung butas, buti na buhay ulit because of lahat ng gagamit. Sa Raw, si Rhea, si Becky, tsaka si Asuka. Yun lang ang bubuhay, then the rest, ayun, bahala na kayo sa buhay nyo. Okay, so that's it for our for our main roster shows on this week's episode of the pod. Stay tuned for our NXT In Your House review. Wait. Narate ko na ba tong podcast? Okay, so bago tayo mag-continue, let's rate Hell in a Cell ulit pala. So, kung di ko nasabi last night, okay. So, the Raw Women's title is 4. Okay, so the Omos, Lashley, and MVP thing is 3 out of 5. The KO Ezekiel is 3. The Judgment Day story match is 3 out of 5. Madcap is 3.5 over 5. The US title is 2. The Hell in a Cell is 5. Okay, on the next half of the show, we're going to talk about NXT In Your House. Wait, magre-recommend pa ba ako? Magre-recommend ako dito 3 matches sa Hell in a Cell. So, obviously yung Hell in a Cell match, the Raw Women's title. Then, the Madcap Corbin. If you're into Madcap's big upgrade, big improvement, you should check this matchup as well. Okay, so NXT In Your House review in the bet. For now, let's check our bunkmates here on Bunk Collective.
Get in, loser. We're going shopping.
I can't. I'm sick.
Yung tataa.
Boo, you whore. Di-lockdown pa rin.
Huh? 2021 na.
So, anong gagawin natin?
Di, magstay na lang sa house at makinig sa Astrology, the podcast. With new episodes every Tuesday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
Bakit mabaho ang utot?
Lulubog na ba ang Pilipinas?
Mahihain ba ang makaya? Bakit bumabagyo sa Pinas?
Mga katanungang bumabagabag sa kaisipan ni Juan, halika, bigyan natin ng mga scientificong kasagutan. Ito ang inyong gurong lakan mula sa Bulacan, Sir Red. At ito ang Hainay na Tagham, the podcast year 2. Pakinggan sa lahat ng major podcast streaming platforms. Tara, matuto, magsaliksik, magkaroon ng dagdag na kaalaman. Haynayan, magpakailanman.
Okay, welcome back to the show. So we got the NXT In Your House review. But before that, let's promote. Lagi naman may sale sa Lazada. If you want to support the podcast on Lazada, lalo't malapit na 7/7 in a few weeks time, please support the podcast on Lazada, podlink.co/6gs. Again, that's podlink.co/6gs. O kaya, pindutin nyo na lang yun. Nasa link TR ko na Lazada link. And diretso yun sa Lazada app. And ayun, makakatulong yun here on the podcast. Okay? With no extra cost. Okay. Let's continue with our NXT In Your House review. Okay? So, it's gonna be longer ulit. So, NXT In Your House, ginanap to sa PC. Akala ko nga dalhin to sa Chicago din. Same venue of Hell in a Cell. But no. Kaya na sad. Kaya na sad talaga. So, let's start. So, oh boy. Let's start with the worst NXT championship match ever that I watched. I don't know, like sinabi ko na to ng predictions na walang kalatoy-latoy yung build, parang tinuloy lang nila yung pangit na build ng match nila sa Spring Breakin. Tinuloy lang nila to. Medyo hindi pa rin nagbago ng kahit papaano si Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy is improved, yes, pero hindi pa din natin nakita yung execution sa match na to. Nakita na natin maganda yung naging outcome nito kasi clean na yung panalo ni Joe Gacy. Ni Joe Gacy, ni Braun Breaker. Tapos, para sa akin, if compare natin yung two matches, mas maganda to. Pero sadyang nabusurahan talaga ako sa match na to. Parang first time kong hindi panoorin yung main event sa unang silip. Kasi, syempre, Braun Breaker na naman. Joe Gacy na naman. Nakakayamot. When I watched this second replay, I think I can say sobrang pangit talaga. Hindi ako ganun na-impress on this matchup. And mas okay pa sa akin yung laban ni Mandy over this. I don't know why. Okay, so let's talk about the NXT Tag Team title. So, Creed Brothers finally won the golds by beating Pretty Deadly. Boy. So, personally, I love this long-term booking for the Creeds. Pero sobrang overdue na nito. I'm glad they won the tag titles and that's good. And Pretty Deadly naman, wala namang kawalan sa kanila ito kasi they had a pretty good run and one of the champions who hold both NXT and NXT UK tag titles, which is good. Maganda-ganda rin to. This is not the same as the other matches, but this is a must watch them. Kasi redemption match to ng Creed Brothers. Then, NXT North American Championship. Finally, Carmelo Hayes won the big one ulit when he defeated Cameron Grimes in a one-on-one match. This thing was impressive. Hindi ko lang talaga alam why they have to drop the NXT North American title. Parang ang dating sa akin kasi they need a new challenger for bronze. Hindi ko makuha why they drop this North American title to Carmelo Hayes. Pwede naman actually na si Melo na lang yung mag-challenge for the NXT title. It would be better, to be honest. Mas maganda yon. Pero I don't know what's the point of dropping the belt. No? Siguro it means hindi talaga draw si Cameron Grimes. O kaya baka nagpe-prepare na sila for a promotion for Cameron Grimes. So yeah. So ito, magsabayin na natin. So NXT Women's Tag and the NXT Women's Title. Parehas sila ng result. Basically. But I like the execution on the Women's Tag. Parehas sila ng result. Parehas nag-umpisa sa interruption. Parehas nag-umpisa slowly. But makikita natin yung improvement ni Mandy Rose. Si Gigi naman, tsaka si JC, they're great. Pero si Mandy talaga, kitang-kita natin yung big improvement niya kumpara sa mga laban niya sa main roster. And this match shows na Mandy can wrestle naman. Pero that's a big improvement kumpara sa mga nakaraang laban niya sa NXT. No? Which is great. Okay? So, but I like the women's tag match better. Pero makikita natin yung big improvement talaga ni Mandy Rose. Please put your attention on Mandy Rose. Props to Wendy Chu talaga. I can say Wendy Chu's gimmick, parang hindi niya kailangan ng championship. Parang it's more on a gimmick sa tingin ko doesn't need championships. But matatawa ka maya, matutuwa ka on Wendy Chu's gimmick because of that. Okay? So finally, let's talk about Legado del Fantasma and Tony D'Angelo's The Familia. Okay. So they made it official. So Tony D'Angelo defeated Santos in a match trios match. So, it means Legado must disband temporarily o kaya yung sa story sinasabi nila disbanded na to. And Santos Escobar became the right hand of Tony D'Angelo. Parang ganyan. So, I love the, the fall of this thing. Medyo, medyo natutuwa ako kay Tony D. Kay Santos din, syempre. Parang alam ko yung magiging progress nitong story habang tumatagal yung build up, which is great. In my opinion, habang nagpo-progress ito, nakikita natin yung pagbabago. And kung paano tayo dapat naman no? Kung paano nagpo-progress yung story, which is great. Then, finally, let's talk about the fallout muna pala bago tayo magpatuloy sa scores. So, yun nga, the familia. I love the Tony tuloy. I love the Tony leadership here. Makes sense. Medyo matagal na rin kasi yung legado sa NXT. So, parang like what I said, they need to go to the main roster, but ito na ata yung kanilang road to main roster ride. Malamang sa malamang. And it's gonna be good na magkaroon ulit ng stable sa main roster, especially SmackDown. No? To fill the gap of New Day, I guess. So, kailangan nila i-fill yung gap ng New Day. And fighting Sheamus, Rich Holland, and Butch is gonna be good for those Lucha tuloy. Those Legado del Fantasma. Okay, let's continue. So, Apollo Crews made his return on NXT without his accent, without Aziz. And he put his attention and intentions on the NXT Championship. Boy, I love this Apollo Crews. Trust me, this thing is much, much better than his gimmick from last year. But sana naman manalo din siya ng NXT title because he needs it. He needs the title. NXT needs to revolve on their challengers talaga, on their main roster challengers para mas maganda yung magiging product. And Apollo Crews being in NXT, so it's a big upgrade actually. Not saying upgrade yung kay Dolph, pero Apollo Crews is a former NXT guy na pwede talaga maging credible challenger for Braun Strowman. So, para sa akin, upgrade yun. Bobby Roode kasi hindi nila ginalaw. So, yeah. Okay. Then, so finally, let's talk about the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. So, Roxanne Perez defeated Tiffany Stratton for the finals. And, ayun, Cora Jade interrupt the celebration to congratulate Roxanne. Then, Toxic Attraction interrupt the whole thing. And nagkaroon ng brawl. So, Indy Hartwell appears then on this brawl. And we got a 6-woman tag on NXT next week. So, mababang build up pa to. But I hope there's a good outcome. Wag sana isama si Cora sa magiging decision ni Roxanne na cash in. Mayayamot ako ng sagad pag gano'n nangyari. si si Roxanne, she deserves to be the women's champion as well as Cora, pero Roxanne needs the title first. No. Okay. So, yun lang. Maganda naman yung laban nila, Tiffany tsaka ni Roxanne. Si Roxanne tsaka si Tiff, parang ang ganda ng chemistry nila dito. And nagkakasundo din sila. Si Tiff kasi hindi pa nagko-compete ng matagal. Parang feeling ko nakikita ko na yung galing niya sa main roster. Main roster sa NXT. Hindi na siya yung kagaya dati na slow shit. Ito, kitang-kita natin yung improvement since maliit din yung kalaban niya. So, siguro may advantage yun. And it's impressive. It's impressive after all na ganito yung binigay sa atin na finals. Paano kaya kung sinikita yung lumaban? Mas maganda rin siguro, no? And then, nandun din naman tayo sa part na Cora will join the parade soon. And it's gonna be good, no? Regardless. Then, finally, let's rate let's rate NXT in your house. Then magre-recommend tayo ng tatlong matches then. So, Legado de Familia is 3 to 5. NXT Women's Tag is 3.5 over 5. The NXT North American is 4. The NXT Women's is 3.5. NXT Tag is 3. The NXT Taro is 2. Sobrang basura ng NXT Taro Trust. Then, matches na pwede ko i-recommend. Of course, you should watch the Legado thing, the Women's Tag, the North American. Yun ang tatlo. Para sa akin, mas solid talaga yung Women's Tag Taros kumpara kay Mandy. Understandable, but still, that's a big upgrade from Mandy Rose before. Ngayon, so let's go to our picks of the week so far. So, Cody Rhodes, so is the superstar of the week. The woman of the week is Bianca Belair, and the match of the week is Hell in a Cell. That's a good shit match. Per this week so far sa ating podcast dito, our pick of the week so far is Kyle O'Reilly and John Moxley for the match of the week. Wala pa akong woman, wala pa akong superstar of the week. Okay? So, yun. Any final plugs sa'yo? Magpa-plug tayo. So, follow the podcast on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, and on YouTube at the MTJ Show Pod. So, you can check all of the links in linktr.ee/the MTJ Show Podcast or pod, whatever, kung naman nakalagay dyan. Then, you can check our network, Bang Collective, the network natin today. So, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on YouTube as well at the Bonk PH. So, you can join our Patreon as well on Bonk. So, that's $5, I think. Then, ayun. You can follow and support the podcast on Patreon as well at the MTG Show Pod. Then, the Bonk. Okay, thebunkph.com for more Bunk Collective shows, and you can join our Discord, bit.ly/Bunk Discord. So you can check that out, and you can join our community na nire-renovate pa rin, Yuki. So yeah, you can check that out. And on the social media at AG Penera on Twitter and Instagram. So, yeah, that's it for our episode this week. Ang haba na tong episode. So, yeah, Hell in a Cell in your house is on the books. Stay safe, stay Russell. See you next week for the Impact Week. We're going to talk about Slammiversary and yung ating yung Wednesday podcast na all about Impact Wrestling. Pag-uusapan natin yan on next week's episode of the podcast. See ya, stay safe, stay Russell. Yeah, boy.